Guys, my name is Vivek, and in this video tutorial I'll explain to you guys how exactly views function in Oracle, what is their relevance, in what cases we should create a view instead of a table, and what kind of operations we can perform on a view. As I did in my previous tutorials, I'll go ahead and explain these things with real project examples so that you can actually see the scenario where you have to implement a view, or in case if you are planning to give an interview, you can tell the guy that these are the situations where you created a view, or these are the situations where the views are required. So let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and create our first view and understand the significance of it. So I'm a manager. I'm acting as a manager, a data warehouse expert for an insurance company. Now, insurance company, they don't only sell the products or the policies on their own. They have contract to external agencies which sell the policies on their behalf as well. Like in India, we have policybazaar.com, and I'm not sure if you are aware or not. We have certain banks, they have association with different insurance companies and they sell the policies on their behalf. Then we have independent agencies, independent contractors who sell policies for different insurance company and that kind of stuff. So we have different people selling policies for an insurance company, and why they are doing that, it's very simple. Whenever you sell a policy, you get a fixed amount of commission on the sale of that particular policy, and the commission can vary based on the money that will be earned as a part of that policy. We won't go into that details. We will understand what's our requirement is. So I'm a data warehousing expert for an insurance company ABC. I have 6 vendors who are selling policies for me. I'll show you the details here. This is my transaction table. I have these 6 vendors who are selling the policies for me. Now what happens, one of the vendors fast sales, it comes to me and it's contributing a lot of money to my company. It's contributing for more than 45% of my entire sale in my last quarter. That means a lot of money is coming thanks to this particular vendor. Now this vendor says that I want the details of all the transaction, all the policies that is being sold by your organization, and I brought in the business. I was the selling point. So now if you see, I cannot give them the access to my transaction table because it has data from different vendors as well, and that will be a security breach because I'm exposing the data of their competitors to them. They can actually gain a leverage on that. For example, they can go ahead and hire an employee who is doing good sales and belongs to a different vendor, that kind of stuff. Anyways, we won't go there right now, but you understand, I cannot give the access of my transaction table to a particular vendor. What I can do is, the other solution I have is that I go ahead and create another table for them which has only their details. Now the problem is, consider I have a transaction table that has billion rows and more than 450 million rows are being sold by fast sales. Then in that case, I'm doing a huge replication of data, and tomorrow somebody else can come to me. Tomorrow another vendor, say XYZ sales, they can come to me and say that we want our vendor data as well. We want the transaction data. So obviously my DBA or it's not wise to keep on creating new tables for different vendors. That's just unnecessary replication of data. In that case, what we can do is, so the first important thing why we are creating a view is security. We don't want to give unauthorized access of data to anyone who is not authorized to access it. So the first thing that came out of this is security. And I'll give you another example of security or the other things that we are going to discuss. The first thing, before creating a view, let's understand what's the syntax of the view. This is the syntax of the simple view. We have a keyword create, a keyword view, then we give the name of the view that we want to create. Then we select the columns from the tables that we want to expose as a part of that view, and we specify the where condition in any. So let's go ahead and create our first view for fast sales. So I'm going to create a view VW underscore fast sale transaction as select. I want to select all the columns from transaction table where vendor name is equals to fast sale, fast sales. So a view has been created. Let's see. The good part with view is that you can actually go ahead and do all the DML operations that you can perform on a table. There are certain restrictions obviously, and we will understand that a little later, but for now let's just keep it in our memory that we can go ahead and perform DML operations on views as well. So let's see how our view looks like. Oh, it's sale. So that's our view. Now this particular view has data only pertaining to fast sale. So that means it's secure. Fast sale cannot access data of any other vendor. So when I wrote this statement here, what exactly happened? Did it create another table? No. What it created is, it created a virtual table. It created a virtual table, a metadata, and every time I perform a DML operation, it goes ahead and run the query that's underlying the definition of the view. So a view is nothing but a virtual table or a SQL script that is executed every time you run a DML statement. The objective that you had was to expose the transaction data for the vendor fast sales. You have achieved that, which is pretty good. You have achieved that. Now you are not exposing the data of any other vendors, and every time so you are not missing any data as well, because every time you query this data, it goes back in the background and run this statement. So every time you query the view, it goes in the background and run this statement. So you get the latest data every time. Now let's see, can we perform certain deletes or certain updates on our view? We did tell that all the DML operations are possible on that view. Let's see if it's really possible. So what I'll do is I'll try to update this view, and I'll try to set the amount to 4,000 where the transaction ID is 635, sorry. So what I'm doing is, the first row where the amount is 3750, I'm going to update it to 635. Since DML operations are supported in Vue, this should work fine. It says that one row has been updated. Let's see if it actually got updated. So if you see, for 635, now we have the amount as 4,000. That means DML operations are supported on views as well. Let's try a quick delete as well. Let's delete from the view where transaction ID is equals to 641. So a row has been deleted. If you see right here, a row has been deleted. If I try to query this view for this particular transaction ID, I should not receive any row. Can I do an insert as well? I can do an insert as well, though there are certain restrictions, and we will talk about that in a little while. But in general, the DML operations are supported on the view as well. Now, what exactly happened when I ran this update or when I ran this delete? Because I did say that view are nothing but a virtual table, a SQL script. So it's not the view that is getting updated or deleted, it's the underlying table that's getting deleted or updated. So if I go ahead and see my transaction table, earlier this particular ID was existing in that table, now it's gone. The same is for transaction ID 635. The face amount was, or the amount was 3750. Now the underlying table has been updated and it's 4000. Now what happens in a situation if I drop the underlying table? In case if I go ahead and drop the transaction table, will the view will be deleted or will the view vanish? No, the view is not going to vanish, but if I do that, I'm going to get an error that the underlying table is missing. And as soon as I create it back, if it has the right accesses, my view will again become valid and it will start running fine. So let's just do a quick recap here at this moment. View is nothing but a virtual table. You can think of it as a SQL script that executes every time when you operate a DML statement on a view. You can do inserts, you can do updates, you can do deletes. Obviously there are certain restrictions and we will understand that in a moment. Why we want to have these views? We want to have these views because they offer a certain abstraction and security level, and then there is something related to performance as well, but that will be a little too much for this tutorial, so we won't go to performance in this. We will discuss that in our next tutorial, and then we will introduce the concept of materialized view. But for now, you need to understand that why we did this. We wanted to make sure that we don't expose any additional data that doesn't belong to that particular person. Now let's understand the security point of view. I have a table employee data. This is the data of my employees that are working in my organization. It has the standard stuff: employee ID, name, job ID, the manager it reports to, and their SSN number. Now SSN number and phone number are critical. I don't want to share or even my salary. I don't want to share this information with someone else. So a different team from my organization only, they come to me and they say that we want to access your employee details. We want the employee ID, the first name, last name, and the email, and the manager that they are reporting to. Now I have two options. Similarly, either I can give them the complete detail, I can give them access to employee data, or I can create them a different table which has just 5 columns. But both of them are not a good option because I cannot just keep on replicating data unnecessarily. That will be too difficult to maintain. And again, if I give them access to my current table, they will have access to sensitive information like SSN and phone number. And believe me guys, it's a big thing in huge organizations, and people lose their job if these critical information are being accessed by unauthorized users. So you want to make sure that these information is kept to it is exposed only to a minimal group of people. So what I'll do is I'll create another view, create view. That's the syntax. These are the first 2 keywords. Then you have to specify the name of the view. So I'll keep as employee data. Let's say the name of the team that's asking for data is PQR. So I'm creating a view for them as select. Now I don't want to expose the entire information. Select employee ID, first name, maybe email, and manager ID from employee data. So this is the information that I only want to expose to them. The view has been created. Let's just uh, let's just quickly query our view. So I did that. Now let's again try to do certain DML operations and see if we are successful in that. So what I'll do here is I'll try to update this view. I see that a manager ID is null, so I'll set the manager ID is equals to 100, where the manager ID is null. Let's see if it's successful. It is successful. It did update that role. Let's see if for Steven, if we see a manager now. We do see a manager, so he's reporting to himself now. Can we delete a row? Yes, we can go ahead and delete a row. Delete from this view where employee ID is equals to 105. So the row has been deleted, which is pretty nice. Let's see if we see 105 anymore. We don't see that. Right here we have 106 after 104. Now let's do one thing. Let's try to insert a row into our view. So let's see if it's going to insert this or not. It failed, and let's see what's the reason for that is. We have 4 columns, we provided 4 values, but it still says that it cannot insert null into HR employee data last name. And remember guys, as I told you before, and this is a proof of that, view doesn't physically exist. It's a virtual table. When I was trying to do an insert, it was actually going down and doing an insert in my table. All right. And it actually didn't succeed because there was a column where the value was expected and we were not supplying that value, so it just failed. So this is pretty critical to understand guys, that this is pretty critical to understand guys, that insert, update and delete are supported, but there are certain restrictions and you have to comply to that. So hopefully this was clear. So as of now, we were talking about the security aspect of views. Let's understand the abstraction aspect of this view and of the views. And this is another thing which is fairly important, and it happens pretty often. So I'm working as a business analyst. A user will come up to me. A user possibly is from a higher management, say. Obviously the CEO won't see these, he won't log into this database and see the reports, but maybe his data officer, he wants to see the data from the transaction table, but he doesn't want to see the entire data. He just want to see that every month, he just want to see in a particular month, a particular vendor has done how many sales. So what exactly he wants to see? He wants to group by the data by month and by vendor name. And he wants to see the number of policies that have been sold by them. this is the kind of data that he wants to see. Now there is another thing he wants to do is he wants to add another table, say employee table. This is vendor level data. These vendors will have further employees that are selling those policies. Or he wants to add the product table. He wants to go a little further, and he wants to see that in a particular month which vendor sold which product how many times. So in April month, vendor new sales, it sold product P1 300 times, product P2 400 times. This is what he wants to see. So instead of, obviously he's not going to write this query, what I'll do is I'll create an aggregate table for him. I can create an aggregate table for him, but here what I'll do is I'll just create a view for him which will hide the complexity behind the scenes, and I'll expose that view to him. So I'll just create a view VW underscore aggregated trans vendor, and I'll expose this view to him. So I've created that. Oh, I missed as. So just let's go over the syntax of view again. We have the two keywords create view, then we specify the name of the view, then we specify as, then we have the select keyword, then we specify our columns, the table name, and in case if we have any condition. Alright, let's go ahead and try to create it. I have not given it an alias as count. So the view has been created. So now the chief data officer, he doesn't need to know what's going behind the scene. He'll just see the views. He will see that, alright, in April new sales sold this much amount of data, this much amount of policies. The ABC sales did so much business, and that kind of stuff. And I can add number of things like the amount of revenue that was generated by these sales, the commission that was paid to these vendors, and that kind of stuff. So it will be a big table when it comes for the chief data officer, but underlying that there will be a huge logic which will be abstracted from the chief data officer. So two important things that we saw as of now is it's allowing us to secure our data, it's offering us security, and it's offering us abstraction from the complex logic. It supports DML operations. In case if we drop the table, the view will not be dropped, but it will fail because the underlying table is missing. Then there is a performance thing, and we will discuss that in the next video maybe. These are just views. There is something called materialized view in Oracle as well. We won't discuss that, it will be a little too much for this video, but this is how you can create a view, and this is what you actually need to know about view, what's its relevance, how we create it, can we do some DML operations, that kind of stuff. What I'll do is I'll give you few scenarios, and you can tell me whether you should create a view in that scenario or not. Can we do DML operations or not? Do you think that view is a good contender? Whether we should create a table for that particular scenario or we should create a view, and that kind of stuff. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys. In case if you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to share it with your friends. Hopefully after this tutorial you will understand everything about views. Thanks a lot for your time guys. I really appreciate you watching this video.